So welcome once again to another Microvellum Live event. My name is Clay and we're glad you're here with us again today. These educational live events are hosted weekly for your benefit, so whether you're a Microvellum user or just looking to learn a little bit more about our software, either way we're glad you're here with us. If this is your first time that you've participated in these live events, I want to take just a few moments to explain how today's session is going to work. So as you've already noticed, we are using GoToWebinar as our streaming platform. This is the palette that you see docked to your right side of your screen, and that's the line of communication to our team, not just to our presenter who will be monitoring those questions that you submit there, but also to the text that we have working behind the scenes to answer your questions. So we are definitely looking forward to helping you, so don't be shy about asking those questions. We have plenty of people to help answer them. In case you're wondering, this webinar is being recorded and a link is going to be emailed to you. And so on that note, I want to take just a few moments to talk about one other thing. We've had a lot of questions during the registration process for these events where people are wondering if they're being recorded or where they might be stored. So I just wanted to let you know where you can find these recordings. If you are a current customer, you can go to our Help Center and you can browse our Microvellum Live section. You can find that under the knowledge base articles, news and info, and go to the live section. So this is where we post these events. We've been doing these since June, and so as the weeks continue on, you will see this area start to fill up with even more recordings. So you can go into these and look at the video, as well as look at the transcripts of the questions that are asked during these events. So a great source of information, not just in what was presented, but also some of the other questions that not all attendees are able to see. So that's great information there. If you're not a customer yet, and don't have access to our Help Center, maybe you're someone attending today looking to learn a bit more about what we do, you can also find a link to these recordings in the event listing page on our main website. So if you went to our events page, you can come in here and you can browse the various events that we have. You can see we do these every single Wednesday, and so we can go into last week's perhaps, and we can then, instead of registering for it, we can watch the recording. So just want to make sure that was covered, and hopefully as you attend more of these, you'll get used to the flow of how these work. All right. So let's get back into what we are going to be presenting today. We have prepared something special for you, or I should say Adam Dirig of Dirig Design has. As a business owner and engineer, draftsman, Adam's going to be able to provide some valuable insight into what drove him to upgrade his software. And another treat we have in store is Adam's going to be having a discussion with Matt Russell, the production manager for RJ Millworkers out of New York. They've been a customer since I think it was around 2001, and they've recently upgraded to the latest Microvellum release. So we'll get to listen in and learn a bit more about what motivated them to upgrade. They're a very busy millwork shop, and so we'll get to listen into that conversation, so that's going to be good. So Adam and Matt, thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to kind of go over some of the features that are similar to 6.7 but much more advanced and user-friendly. And then I'm going to go just touch on, the other features like the Extrude Product Builder, Unique Product Builder, and I know they're working on a different name for that, but right now that's what they're going with. And the Solid Model Analyzer that, 6.7 doesn't really stand a chance to have anything like that. And then one of the other things that I found beneficial is, we dimension things with our laser dimension technology, and we're able to import that right into Microvellum and the Microvellum environment. And then last, I'm going to just kind of do a quick interview with Matt. So first of all, I'd like to thank Microvellum for giving me the opportunity to do this. I'm very excited about this. Again, I've been a user for quite some time, and to be able to share some of the things that I've benefited from and my insights is always a fun thing. And second, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I know everybody's busy, and hopefully this is a worthwhile thing and you can learn a few things from it. Right now I'm going to just do a quick poll because it will help me understand who I'm talking to. How many people here are currently using 6.7 or what version you are using. So I'm going to just launch this right now, and hopefully everybody should see it. And if you just take a second to answer, it looks like a lot of answers are coming in, and I'm just curious if there is a lot of 6.7 users that I'm talking to, or the newer version. So looks like I'll give this just a few seconds more, yeah, we got about 20% of you are using 6.7 still, and then 44 is actually in the version 15. So that's definitely good. I'm going to close the poll now. Thanks for doing that. I should be back to my screen. All right, so that gives me just an idea of how to approach some things. So let me just give you a little bit of background about myself, so you know who's talking to you. So I own a company. Oh, I was going to talk about the live events, but Clay kind of hit that in the beginning. So I own a company called Dirig Design. We specialize in millwork shop drawings. I've been doing this I've had this company for 8 years. I started out in the millwork industry, a while ago. I went to school for woodworking, and then right after school I got a job at RJ Millworkers, actually, where we're going to be talking to Matt a little later in the webcast. But I got a job as a cabinet maker, and I had AutoCAD experience from my schooling, so I kind of went from a cabinet maker to, you know, more of an office role, CNC programmer kind of role. And when I first started out, I was programming for a Wiki machine on WoodWop, which I don't know how many people have heard of WoodWop, but I'm sure a few of you have. But I used to do all the programming on WoodWop 4.0 at the time, which, you know, it was quite a feat. And then I found out that we had already purchased Microvellum, and it was kind of just sitting in a box. So I kind of prompted some people to see if I could get some training on it, and they were gracious to send me some training. And I learned version 6, and then I got into version 6.7 shortly after that, and was very heavily into that. And I programmed, you know, kept the whole shop busy with a lot of the stuff that I did. And I was very successful with 6.7. And then when I started my own business in 2009, I kind of went into the AutoCAD side of things, and recently now we're growing pretty substantially, and I have 8 full-time drafters, and we're getting to a point now where I want my drafters to be able to visualize things a little bit more than just in the 2D environment. So I bumped into Clay, and these are just some examples of some of the things that we've done. This is just a simple commercial application, and then this was some shop drawings for some more high-end residential, and then these were some more custom things that I did for a company that was making this all out of wood. So that's pretty much that. So I bumped into Clay at a trade show, and talked to him a little bit about the newer version, and I had seen some webinars on it. I had kind of, you know, wrapped my head around it a little bit. And then after talking to him, I just piqued my interest into some of the abilities that I could do, and I ended up going to the TechCon event. And with the TechCon event, it was really an awesome event. If you guys didn't make it there this year, I would highly suggest it for next year. You get to meet with the developers, and you get to meet with the people who are making the program, you know, what it is. And a lot of the changes in the newer version, right now you can see I'm running the newest version with the beta, so kind of disclaimer, I am running a beta, not recommended for, you know, your actual everyday workflow, but, you know, it's nice to be able to jump in here and see the newer features. But so in the TechCon event, I learned a little bit. I did some training after that, and I went to a couple other training events and kind of got into it. And now that I've dove into the software a little bit deeper, I've greatly seen the benefits that the version 15 has over version 6.7. And I kind of talked to Matt because we still work together, and I do all the shop drawings for their company, and we still work together. I trained Matt with version 6.7, and so I talked him into coming to a training event, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but he's had good success with that. So not to keep talking and bore you, I just want to give you a little bit of background of where I'm coming from, and now I can jump into some of the benefits that I've seen in the new version 15 software. So most people are running version 15.4. This is 15.5, the beta. So a lot of the features are going to be pretty similar. But all right, so just make sure all my ducks are in a row here. The changing screens is always fun to do when you're halfway through thinking you're ready to go. So the first thing that I noticed, obviously there's a new user interface. It's a little bit different than the one in 6.7, but it's pretty easily grasped. I was able to figure out pretty quickly how to work things, and what you can customize. You can customize all these for shortcut commands. They still have everything, so you can do a command line entry, which is always handy for speeding things up. But one of the main switches that I've seen is they've pulled everything into a database. And so when you're working with the program, instead of before in version 6.7, you had everything like kind of as you create a new job, it would create it in the file that you're working in or the folder you're working in. And then if somebody, I accidentally deleted this file, you're kind of screwed. Where here, it's all together in a database. So it gives you the protection of that, but it also speeds things up a bit. So I'm just going to start a project so I can get into some of the things. And this is the beta version, so I've been playing with test projects. So don't be too worried that it's empty. Project version 1. All right. And when you start a project, when we started a project, it just kind of went and happened, and you would have to open up a drawing and all that kind of stuff, which you still do here. But what's nice with the newer version is you come into a project setup screen, and some of the things that I used to go through and do in the global variables to set things up, they have a project wizard now, which is in 6.7. It just was a little bit buried, and I never used it. But now you can set up things like, some of the grain directions and hardware right from here, and you don't have to jump into the global variables to edit and change that. So it makes that a little bit easier. Global variables is very similar. There's still quite a few global variables, and they still control everything out there. So I found that that's been very helpful. It's nice because it looks very similar. And then there's the project materials, which are, again, very similar to version 6.7. They've just upgraded things. They got things in folders, a little bit easier to organize. You can search through stuff, which is something that I think is great. And then the door wizard. And I'm just going to click save and then close. So one of the things that I noticed when I was at the TechCon event was, every so often, or, every few months, or maybe a little bit more now, Microvellum comes out with a new library. And before, when I was using 6.7, I would try to keep up to date with the latest library, because I know that they have new features in the library and new things that, bugs that they've worked through, hardware that they put in to place. And a lot of people out there, it might not have the luxury of, you might be so heavily customized that a new library is daunting. But I would suggest, to make it so that you can edit the globals quickly and upgrade to the newest library, because each library upgrade has got, it's like chock full of benefits. So this, I'm running with the 46.1 library. Its most recent one is one that they were kind of like showcasing at TechCon, and I want to show you some of the things that I found in this library that are pretty awesome, and then just some of the other features before I get into all the other stuff. So I started a new project. I'm going to start a new room just so I can throw some cabinets in here and show you some of the things. So just a default is fine. My screen is white right now, so you can see it, so it'll show up a little bit better. Usually I work in black. And I'm just going to draw a polyline because I like doing that. So I'm going to draw a polyline at 10 foot, and then down 36, and then over 12 for fun. And then I'm going to jump into the draw area. So I like how they have everything organized here. It was similar in 6.7, but this seems a little bit more user-friendly. And then once you click the draw, you have all these options. You can draw products, applications, and I won't steal too much of this thunder for going over this, because a lot of the other live events, you know, go through this stuff. I'm more trying to get to the parts that really have helped speed things up from my transition from 6.7 to this. So I'm going to just pick a wall, and I'm going to say go follow a polyline. And now I'm going to orbit this so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to throw some products on this wall. Now in 6.7, you'd have to, you know, pick each product that you want and lay it out, which is fine. But one of the things that I really like about this is now you can kind of like attach a product to a wall. So you can select the wall, and then it says, you know, how much from one side, how much from the other side, and how many products do you want to do. I'm going to do 4 and click OK. And then it goes through, and my prompts are coming up on, I have 4 screens, so if something disappears for a little bit, that's where it went. So you can go through these prompts and kind of pick what you want. One thing I do want to do is just turn off the countertop. And for right now, I'm just going to click OK. And it's going to go through and just draw these out. And this is very similar, you know, these look very similar to the way it would in 6.7. In 6.7 too, you know, I used to use Overdrive Pro quite a bit. I throw all the products in there, make sure everything was good, and then bring it all over to the drawing environment. And now with this version 15, I find it's very easy to just start in the drawing environment. And, you know, Overdrive Pro is still there if you need it. Or the spreadsheet's still there if you need it, but you can do most of it in the drawing. So, you know, we got the products here, and I like using that attached to the wall so it evenly spaces them out, and there's some other features that you can do as well. And now I'm going to throw just some upper cabinets in there, and then we'll do that. So, cabinets. Some 2-door uppers. I'm going to fill a wall with this. 1 and 1, and change this to 4. So one of the things that I found pretty cool with the newest library is in 6.7 there was always 2 libraries. There was the frameless library and there was the face frame library. So with this 46.1, and this could have, 46.1 is where I'm coming in, so this could have been like this for a little bit. But what I like about it is they've included both the face frame cabinets and the frameless cabinets, plus a lot of, you know, other there we go, a lot of other extrusions and stuff like that. So it's kind of like all incorporated into one. You don't have to switch back and forth. You can use the face frame and the frameless in the same job. Very handy. So here we got just like a basic cabinet setup. And before, if we wanted to, you know, put a notch in, say there was like a pipe coming through here. If we wanted to put a notch in, we'd have to go into the spreadsheet, shrink stuff down, you know, add this, add that. And with the 46.1 library, they've kind of incorporated that more into the prompts. So I can jump into the prompts. So say there's a pipe going in this corner. I can jump into the prompts of this cabinet into the rear modification area and then jump to the tab and let's put in a right corner notch that is 6 inches by 6 inches. And it will go through and update that cabinet accordingly. Where before that would have taken, you know, I don't know, an hour to go through and update things. And I can do the same thing for the upper cabinet. And it's just a, you know, it's all built into this product. So these products might look the same when you're dropping them in there initially, but they have a lot more power behind them, which is something that I've come to really love about the newer library. And I didn't go 6 by 6 on that one. I just kind of clicked OK, but you can get the idea from that. So that's just kind of, you know, me throwing stuff on the wall. The other thing that's pretty awesome that I found is everybody's always in a rush. Everybody wants to shop drawings before field dimensions are taken. And so you do all the shop drawings, and then you got to go through and update everything for a field survey. And something that I've gravitated towards with this newer version is if you want to modify the wall, you can select the wall, and it'll pull in all the products that are attached to that wall. And that's why I use the fill wall with products, because it just attaches them to them. And I can put in the new dimension. So say it's changing to 135, and I can say, do I want the wall to grow one way or the other? And I'm going to say, we'll have it all grow that way. And then you can pick the products that you want to change and then leave the ones that you don't want to change. And you can select it, and it will just go through and update everything accordingly. So where before I would adjust the wall, and then I would do the math myself to figure out, you know, which cabinets are changing and how much they're changing. And then I'd have to go into each individual prompt and update the cabinets, or go into Overdrive Pro and update them and then redraw everything. So this kind of takes that 10 steps or whatever it was to, you know, a single step, and everything's done. You can see these two cabinets grew equally. These ones stayed the same. Something that it's a little thing, but it really is a time change or a time saver. That was my polyline that I started with. I'm just going to get rid of that. So one thing too that I found, you know, pretty helpful, and this is coming more from my drafting side of things, and this is something that I still have a little bit of work to do to make it exactly what I want, but it's extremely powerful. So if I go to the draw area, and I go, or not the draw area, and I go to 2D drawings, and if I wanted to draw these out in 2D and not just the 3D, I'm going to just select Draw Walls, and it's going to select all the cabinets on them, and I'm just going to pull this out up here, and now we're drawing everything in 2D. And the cool thing with this is all of this is connected to the cabinets. So if I change the width here, it's going to change the width here, and all of the dimensioning that you see and the layers and all of that is customizable, which that's the part that I need to go through and customize for my own business. But I can see the benefit in getting this done once, handing it off to my drafters, and then I never have to worry about if my standards were kept. They'll just automatically be kept. The other cool thing with this is you can, you know, pull sections, and you just grab the one you want, and I always like rear facing or right facing one, and I just pull a section over here, and I'm going to do it one more time, and this is all, you know, all connected, so that if, you know, something changes, this changes to one drawer, this changes to two, or one shelf, this changes to two shelves, it'll update automatically. So just some, you know, things to make life a little bit faster, a little bit easier. I found at the heart of this software is it's 6.7 at its heart, and it's just with the user interface and with the dialog boxes that we have now and prompt screens, and they've just made it so much easier to communicate with back and forth instead of going into the spreadsheet and then updating that and saving a subassembly separate and all that stuff. It's kind of very intuitive now that I found in my experience. So one of the things that I used to struggle with is the fact that if you wanted to modify a part, say there was something, say this was an office and we needed a grommet hole in the side of this cabinet. It was very easy to modify like the cabinet components because you could draw it in 2D and you could update it. But then if you wanted to modify anything subassembly related, say there was a hole in this door because it was a trash cabinet and you needed to put a trash ring hole in it, it was very hard to modify the subassemblies. What they've done in the newer library is they've created everything as a subassembly, which might sound a little strange at first, but it's pretty, the thought of it is pretty awesome because it really opens the door to possibilities of updating things very quickly throughout a whole project. I used to use subassemblies in 6.7, everything was driven with subassemblies with me. And when they introduced the fact that even the carcasses were a subassembly, like if I go into the design data here, you'll notice before where this was all cut parts for that carcass, and then you'd go to the subassemblies and you'd find the doors and the adjustable, the adjustable shelves were all in the carcass as well. But you'd find the doors and you'd find drawers and all that kind of stuff in the subassemblies. Now everything is a subassembly, which is great because you can update things quickly. But one of the benefits that I found is when you need to customize something in the single parts editor, where before I was limited to only the parts that were in that cut parts area. Close this too soon. I was limited to only these parts. Now we're kind of like not limited to anything because everything is a subassembly. So if I close this and I edit my single, or I go to open my single part editor, it's going to pop in on my other screen. I'm just going to, dock it over here. So here's the cabinet side that I want to edit, just like normal. Everybody's seen this, done this before. I'm going to jump into the routing tools, pick 3/4 of an inch, pick right, pick existing entities. We got our thing. But what's cool with this is it lists out all the products in this list, which before you would have to hit a command over here and it would update the 2D part, and then this drawing would close. What's cool with this is I can just right click on the one that's highlighted and hit update, and it'll automatically jump back into this drawing and update that part. But if I screwed this up and I want to move this down or up, I can go back to the drawing that's still open and move this around, and then just go back, right click, and update. I mean, this would have saved me, and it wasn't the time to do the work, it's the time for the drawing to go, open this and close this and all that kind of stuff. It would have saved me so much time back when with 6.7. But what I used to do when I had to update or when I had to mess with the subassembly was I would actually take the door, I would save a unique one so I wouldn't mess up all my other doors, and then I would bring that, copy and paste it into, or I'd bring it into the cut parts area where I could drop the door in from like the product area. I would edit it in the 2D part editor because I thought the 2D part editor was great because you could see everything happen. And then I would save it back to the subassembly area and then drop it into the cabinet and update it, and I would get my one part done. With this one, I can just select the door and go to the parts editor, drop in, oh, I forgot to do a circle. Getting ahead of myself here. Pick an entity. Hopefully nobody has a trash ring down that low, but I think for points of getting this across, this should work out fine. And it will go through and it'll update this door. Now, my first thought when I did this was, great, you know, it updated this door, and I'm going to redraw these other products, and that hole is going to be there. But what's cool is it automatically saves that subassembly as this unique one, and it only works with this cabinet now, and where all the other ones are tied together, this one is now unique. So I mean, that right there, just that one feature saves hours and hours of work from coming from 6.7. One of the things too that I've noticed that's pretty cool is you can do quite a lot of things from the prompts area. Where before, you know, in my workflow, I would get the basics of the cabinet in the prompts area, click OK, and then I would go into the spreadsheet and edit everything there. With this, you can do quite a lot of editing, quite a lot of changes right from the prompts area, including subassembly work, because everything's a subassembly. And in 6.7, you know, if you right-clicked here, I think calculators were around, but they weren't that popular. And nice, you can have calculators for drawer front heights and all that kind of stuff. But then there's an area where there's subassemblies. And when you select the subassemblies, you can pull those up. And you notice mine's got a few colors going on because we've edited them. But the ones that are green are saved to the project level. And then the ones that are red are individual for this one cabinet. And I updated the carcass side with that hole, and I updated the door with that hole. So it made those unique automatically, which before you'd have to do that first before you do anything editing of it. So, but what's cool is, you know, I can see these subassemblies, but I can also, if I wanted to jump into them more, I can go into this properties if I want, or I can actually go into the prompts. And here I can change even more. If this was a cabinet, and say this one needed a 7-inch and all the other ones were 3.5-inch, you can update that one off. And before I shut that, I wanted to go back. The other thing that's cool is, you know, you have the ability to save it any way you want, but it kind of defaults to the subassembly only. Then if you want to add more subassemblies right here, instead of doing it in the spreadsheet, you can actually go through and you can add, you know, anything you need right into this, and you, without even leaving the drawing environment, you're steps ahead. Because I used to add it, go back, draw it, no, it's not in the right spot, go back, adjust it, go back, you know, and so it's just, it's like I was saying before, it's like the underlying like background is very similar to 6.7 in where you're going for the information, but it's just the navigability of, I think that's a word, of how you get there is so much more user-friendly, so much quicker and faster. And that's what I found in my experience. You can also add hardware. You can pick points for those. Now, there's quite a lot of things, and we're getting, geez, it's 2:40 already. There's quite a lot of things that I want to cover, so I don't want to get too crazy into this. I was going to go a little bit more, but there's so much out there. There's so much packed in there that, you know, I could spend hours talking about it, and I don't want to waste people's time. So hopefully everybody's found just these little things helpful. But I'm just going to jump over on my notes here for a second and just make sure that I'm hitting quite a lot of things. I talked about SubAssembly, single part editor. I think that's just a great improvement. And then again, you do have the ability to use a spreadsheet if you want to. You can use the one that I did before where I just selected the single product and it pulled it up, or they still have Overdrive Pro where I think I need to, I'm just looking on one of my other screens to see if it popped up. Yep. So they have Overdrive Pro where you can have your list, you can add products in here just like you did in 6.7. But what's cool with this, instead of right-clicking on this to edit, you can actually jump right into it and edit the data here and then redraw it. You actually don't need to redraw it. It will it saves automatically and you just redraw the part and it works, or the product and it works. So that's some of just like the user-friendly stuff that I found just kind of working within the drawing environment, but working with the products. And one thing more just to plug on this for the library, and then I'll jump into some other things. So if I go back to draw, and I want to go to product, and we are in the frameless area, but they have product starters in here. And these product starters, in 6.7, I think they had one that looked like this, and it was just an empty product, and you would have to go in there and fill everything in. And I used that a couple times, and then I started going, oh, let me just start with a base cabinet, and then I'll edit everything as needed. But they have ones that are extremely smart, and this was very eye-opening to me when I was taking a look at this. So I'm just going to place this anywhere, and we can adjust the width just like we would. But what it's doing is, this was a horizontal one. So say we had a cabinet, and say it was a buffet cabinet, and it needs to all be one cabinet, but on one side there's doors, in the middle there's drawers, on the other side there's doors. Something simple, but something just a little bit different, that it doesn't fall into the regular nutshell, the regular product area. What they've done is they've made these product starters, and you can go through and you can pick, and I don't want to go too much more on time here, so I'm going to be quick about this, but I can pick a door, and I can say I want adjustable shelves behind it in bay number 1. In bay number 2, I can pick I want 3 drawers, and I'll just leave it at that. And in bay 3, we could do, say, another door and right swing. And then we could do, pull-outs or roll-outs in this one, and click OK. And it'll go through and it'll basically make a custom product extremely quickly, something that you could tweak something here or there, and you're ready to go. Where before, I used to go through and I would merge products together. I would, go through and just do all this crazy stuff with the products that were there to make this custom product, and now in the product starter. And this is why I say, upgrading to the newest library, there's benefits, because there's quite a lot of little, this is one little area, this is one little tab of just a whole bunch of things that will make your life easier. So that's kind of it for the library. I'm going to change it back to wireframe so it doesn't take too long. One other quick thing, and then I'm going to jump into some of the things that 6.7 can't really do. I want part properties. So one of the things that I used to use quite a lot was machine tokens. I'm sure everybody out there has heard of them. I'm sure everybody out there has used them before. And one of the things in 6.7 that you had to do, if you want to do anything custom related to machine tokens, you'd have to save them back to the machine token area, which it wasn't awful to do. It just, there was many steps that had to be taken to do it. One of the things that I found in the part properties area, if we load, let's see, show properties. I'm just trying to get into one of these guys. If we load just a part, I'm just pulling up the adjustable shelf area, and I go to, and these are all very similar to what you've seen in version 6.7 very similar layout. But then I can go to the machining area and I can right click. So say this, I go through and I customize this. I make this, tweak it, do whatever, and I love it, and I want to add that to like 6 other cabinets. Instead of me going to the area before where I have to add a custom machine token, what you can do is you can right click and you can copy the token to a clipboard. And my clipboard just showed up on my other screen. And you can see I have a few tokens here that I was playing with. I'm going to click Save. And then I can go to a different area. So let's go, sure. I'm going to say Show Properties. Do you want to say the changes? Yeah, sure. And it's just dialog over here. So I'm just going to say SubAssembly only. Great. That's going to open up the other one. And I'm going to jump in. There's no machine tokens because this is a door, but you'll still get the idea. Now I want to insert from clipboard. And that one that I just saved is right there. All the parameters that I saved, and I can hit paste, and it drops it in there, and we're done. Super time saving. I mean, that feature alone I would have been very happy with. I'm just making sure I'm trying not to miss anything, but also go slightly quicker because we're almost done here. So I'm going to just close this out, and I'm not going to save it. So some of the other things that I was going to touch on that I might just skip over is some of the reporting and stuff that just goes so much faster when you're doing nesting. You can go through and process everything to a work order, and then open up the, let me just, sometimes it's easier just to show room 1. I'm going to just do 1 cabinet to make sure it's quick, and process work order. Hopefully it's quick. The reports, I had a whole custom thing that I made for 6.7 where I used to do some of the reports in Microvellum, and then I used to do some of the reports. I had like a Word document or Excel spreadsheet that was all set and ready to go. And then I would edit that and print everything out that way. But if something changed, if a cabinet, had an issue, something like that, then I would have to go through and I would have to reprint stuff and merge PDFs, and it just, could get to be a mess pretty quickly. What I like, and this is just a warning message because this is still the beta, what I like about this is it's got all the reports built into this, but it's super easy to, if you have a change or something, you can go through and you can print this stuff over and over again really quickly. If I go into reports, this nest report, let's see, this time that you're seeing for this to load, and it has every single nest. It used to take me about 6 seconds a nest to print this with crystal reports. I used to go into the crystal reports thing, hit print. I mean, just this is an awesome feature as well. So something pretty exciting are the reports, and same with the product labels. I used to print part labels, and again, I would print those each individually, and now it's all right here. You just pull up the report, you can save it different formats, and hit print much faster. So that's just a quick run through of that. And now I want to get into some of the things that 6.7 can't really touch, and some of the things that I go, this is what drew me first. This is something that I just saw and I said, there's so much power behind this. And it's the product builders. And I'm just going to dock this on the right again. And they've changed the interface a little bit. This looked a little bit different before, but now this is a newer interface because basically there's a lot of power behind this, and there's a lot more than they from my talks with them are planning to do with this, and which is exciting because it can already do quite a lot, but soon it's going to be able to do even more, and that's what's exciting about it. So I'm going to just start a and this is something that hopefully everybody's seen here, but just in case, I'm going to start a new product. I'm getting a little bit close on time. I'm going to try and wrap this up. But this is the extruded product builder, but it's also the solid model analyzer and all that kind of stuff. And this just really gives you some good, I think I wanted to do this one. And I'm going to just select, and for some reason this is, yep. So this is where you select the path, and then you want to select the parts that you want to add to that path, and I'll just pick a simple wall here. And you can drop this in. And this is where, I'll kind of touch on the laser technology that we use. Because of this, when I go out and I scan stuff with my laser measurement tool, I can see the benefit of this, and I haven't had a chance to do this yet, but, it's totally, the benefit is there. So when I go out and I scan things, I'll come back with the site conditions, and now I can create a line or a polyline from those site conditions and draw, when you have that reception area that or that nurse's station that you have to match the radius of the above soffit, I can scan that soffit, I can bring it into Microvellum, and I can superimpose a radius over top of it if I wanted it to be exact, or I could go with the polyline that the tool gives me, and then I can assign this and extrude a product right from it, and I'm done. And I'll show you just some examples of some of the things that I've scanned, just so you can kind of get an idea of what that is. So let's see here. There we go. Sorry, again, the screen's kind of screwed me up a little bit, so I'm got all my stuff on one side. So this was first I want to show you, I'm just going to start putting stuff on here because for time's sake. This was in a scan. This was something that I drew. I drew it all in AutoCAD 3D. I didn't use Microvellum. This was, kind of back when I needed to figure out what it was going to look like. I just wanted to do the design work and not mess with product stuff. And so I got all this done, and then I had to go through and import it in. So with Solid Model Analyzer, you can just grab this, and it'll update it and go. And then, so that's one of the things that was pretty awesome. It's a little side tangent, but another thing that I think is pretty amazing with these product builders is, this might look familiar to some people who are using 6.7. This is the old file structure. This was an old job that I did. I'll get back to the laser stuff. I didn't forget. I just forgot I had a couple other things to talk about. So this was something that I did in 6.7 a few years back now, and ignore. This was a dial wall nurse's station that had quite a lot of parts and pieces to it. Everything was parametric in this. I went down to the T. I wanted to make this something that I could, resize, something that, if the field conditions changed. But this took me about 35 or more hours to go through and make this and really come up with a good product with it. And now that I've seen the new tools, I could have done this in about 3 hours or less. So I mean, just the time saving, that's 32 hours of work that I could have put onto something else if I had been using the newer software that now I can have that ability to do in the future. So those are just some of the other plugs. But now back to my laser scan stuff. Some of the things. So this is an example of a scan that I did, and basically I'm just scan the wall, and these points here, I'll show you a cleaned up version. This was that, if you were to look at this and rotate it and then put it in here, I just made the points a little bit smaller, but everywhere where you see a point is a point that was taken the dimension of with the laser scanner, and it always draws a line between the two. So if I were to go in the corner, you can kind of see where the mud joint is. You can kind of see where there's imperfections in the wall. Well, that's the actual wall. That's like if I were to scrub the countertop, that's what you get. So I went through and I made a continuous polyline from that. It's just a 2D polyline. And then from there, I created the drawing that I needed to for the cabinets, or for the countertops, excuse me. And the front half of the countertops are all nice and straight and square, and the back half is all scribed in. And then I isolated the countertops. I dropped them on the sheets that they needed to go on. And this is a simple, a simple thing to do in Microvellum, but I just dropped these into the nest that needed to go to, assign the router, cut it. The counter did fit like a glove, so I was pretty happy with that. So that's the benefit, the laser scanner and communication with Microvellum and the features. And then if I really wanted to get a little bit more involved, I could use the solid model analyzer. I could extrude these the 3/4 of an inch or the 1.5 inches that they need to be. I could model them so that I can put them into my 3D modeled file, and then I can just do the solid model analyzer and cut it right from there. So either way, it would work, but that's something that I found pretty helpful. And then one other thing to touch on, and then I'll get into talking to Matt because we're getting close on time here. I might go over just a little bit, sorry. This was another thing that I scanned. This was and let me show you the worksheet that I have. And this is a classic example of something that you could take from the scan, and I'll show you a picture of what this is so you're not just going, what is he doing? 1610. So this was like a lecture hall. And in this lecture hall, there were all these curved areas, and they needed to be exactly matched where the placement of the anchors were, and then they were going to be replaced. Well, with the extruded product builder, these were all being remade. I don't know, they wanted a different color or something like that. With the extruded product builder, you could take the scan data, and this is what I did here, and I isolated, so each one of those points that you see is a measurement, and then I superimposed a radius over top of that, and now I can just bring this into the solid model, or not the extruded product builder, and go through and have my file right from there. So very powerful when you couple Microvellum with like the laser scanning technology. There's really not much room for, you're bringing in the actual reality of what, is what is being measured, and then you're bringing it right into the Microvellum environment. So there's no, back and forth or transcribed incorrectly or anything like that. And that's what I find like extremely useful with this newer version. All right, I want to just make sure that I touched on most of everything. Again, there's so much out there that I could just keep going for a while, but I don't want to waste any more, too much of your time. Hopefully this has been beneficial. And now I'm going to just talk to Matt and just ask him a few questions as to how he has benefited from making the switch, and hopefully that is something that can help anybody out there who's still thinking about that. So I just need to pull up my questions. So Matt, are you there?
Yep. Hello, how is everybody?
How about now? Are you there, Matt?
Yep, we hear him, Adam. I think your audio, you need to adjust your audio. He's there.
Okay. Thanks, Clay.
I don't know if you're, I'm not hearing you, but let me start with the first question, and I'll mess with the audio in a bit. So hopefully everybody else can hear him. The first question I have is, can you tell me a little bit about RJ Millworkers and what your role is?
Yep, RJ Millworkers has been producing custom cabinetry for about 25 years. The shop was started by Randy Morley after he went into a fine furniture building with James Kurnoff and decided to get back into the business. Our shop has all different aspects, from store fixtures, medical casework, office spaces, restaurants, and high-end residences like kitchens, closets, vanities. And we got about 25 people here. I've been here, I started on the floor about 15 years ago and have been programming for about 6 years now, and program and am a lead project manager.
Can you tell me how your business has been this year? Like, has it been busy?
Yeah. We used to do a lot of just repetitive store fixture work, which made programming real easy. Now everything is pretty much a complete one-off, and it's making, this new version is just making it easy to make that happen.
Nice. You recently upgraded from version 6.7. When did you make that switch?
We purchased it a while ago, but, we're very hesitant at first just to make the switch over to the, version 15. Just thought it was going to be a lot tougher than it was, getting up with the new library, because we had made ours so specific. But since we've made that switch June this year, we've used it every day since.
Nice. Now, I know this is probably 99% of the case, but most businesses are so busy in this area that it's really hard to find time to do the upgrade. Obviously something compelled you to make that decision. What were the main reasons why, and the major reasons that influenced you to just jump into it?
Just looking at how the sub-assemblies work, it made it a lot easier being able to go through and change one thing in one cabinet and have it change for that whole room. Just seemed like it'd be very beneficial. It's just been, we saw the fact where we could save time, and that's why we went with it.
Nice. What's your experience with the upgrade so far? Is it been worth it?
Everything.
Are you?
Yeah, everything has been great with this new upgrade. We're saving a lot of time just in the processing your reports, as you showed. It's one click and you've got all your nests, all your labels, your G-code files. It's all there and ready to go. Just seems to be a lot easier, and if you do have to make any adjustments, like you said, it's just another click and it brings it all back up for you.
Cool. Nice. Have you had a chance to mess with the extruded product builder tools at all?
We've done it a little bit, but not too much. We, as you said, do a lot of nurses stations and die walls, and just looking at what time we will be able to save just by using that. It's going to be great when we have the opportunity to. But we have used the solid model analyzer quite a bit, and just being able to take a 2D section, extrude it, throw in a couple of 3D parts, and you've got your cabinets has been great.
Sorry, I'm looking at questions and trying to multitask here. Not my strong point. What sort of learning curve do you think, it's been so far with the software, but, also with the extruded product builder and unique product builder?
From 6.7 up, it was not that bad. It was pretty easily done. If you're pretty proficient with AutoCAD, it's not that big of a learning curve, I would say.
Well, and from 6.7 too, compared to 6.7, was it easy to grasp some of the things that were happening?
Yeah. Yep. It's been easy to grasp. took a minute just to find where some of the variables were, but the new layout definitely made a lot of the variables a lot easier to get to.
Nice. Compared to 6.7, what sort of improvements have you seen with the design and engineering process, of these types of products? With the extruded product builder and stuff.
It just overall everything has been great. The biggest thing is just the sub-assemblies, the globals. What used to be a lot of typing away is just a few mouse clicks now. You can adjust one cabinet construction and leave the rest of the room the same all through the prompts. It's really saving a lot of time.
Couple more and then I'll be done. So I know you have this. You touched on the solid model analyzer tool, but have you worked with it a lot, and have you had a good experience with it?
We've done just a couple of projects. We had some ADA vanities. Like I say, we were just able to. They were different lengths. So once we had one drawn in 3D, turned it into our product, you could throw just a couple of variables, and then from that point, it would automatically update because you already had it in your spreadsheet. So
nice. Yeah, I always hated ADA cabinets. So with the solid model analyzer, I could see the benefit of that. And then, have you noticed an overall improvement in the speed in which you're getting the projects ready for the production floor?
Yep, like I said, the processing the jobs is just a lot easier. That one click, being able to go through, find, create your work order, being able to go back and update a work order if needed by just grabbing the one or two parts. You could reprocess it at that point and having it make your new labels, make your new nests, make your new G-code. It's saving a lot of time, and it is getting to the floor a lot quicker.
Nice. So after using this for a while, would you want to go back to 6.7?
I haven't opened 6.7 since the training event in Philly, since I started using this.
Nice.
That training event helped. It took a lot of the worries out of it, and let me know that it was just going to be just as easy to go through and work right through it.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that's kind of my thoughts too, but it's also good to hear it from somebody else who's been using it for a while. Well, thanks, Matt, for taking the time to talk to us, and yeah, I'm glad you could share.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
So there's just a couple of questions, and of course, I'm having a hard time seeing them. It's the first time I've used the webinar, GoToWebinar, so.
Hey, I can help you with those, Adam.
Perfect.
Yeah, some of the questions, a lot of people are liking what they see so far. We've been able to keep up with a lot of the questions that have been coming in about the product, about Toolbox and EPB and pricing and all that stuff. But a lot of people are still wondering about the laser tool. I'm probably going to get to that a little bit more, but one of the questions I want to make sure that we get to, I'm pretty sure you'll have the answer to this, is Ivan's question. Ivan asks about how long did it take you to measure all of those points? So I'm not sure which drawing you were showing at that time, but maybe you can answer in general or even specifics on about how long it might take to scan a room or scan a soffit or scan something like that.
Sure. No, that's a good question. So I'll jump into this one. This was just a simple countertop scan. I would say I was doing these about every inch and then half an inch in the quarters. I want to say it took about 20 minutes to do the scan. So I set up the laser. It has like an automatic feature, and you just start in one point at a certain height, and it'll stay level at that height, which I went with the 30 inches off the finished floor. And it scanned around the room. I made sure the file was okay and exported it, and I was out of there. With the curve scan that I was showing, This is a little bit more involved. I did have to move the unit a couple of times, which is just a matter of triangulating it. And I think this one took about 3 hours, but I was able to walk away with this information, which, you know, would take a little bit longer if you're doing it by hand. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that definitely does. And as we were preparing for this, one of the things that I think you touched on a little bit, I may have been answering questions when you talked about this, but one of the nice things that you showed off yesterday was the fact that we're able to, you know, if we're doing a wall, scanning a wall, you know, all the imperfections in the wall, we can capture all of that so that we're making sure that that edge of that countertop is going to fit nice and snug up against the wall. Yep, that's the one right there. And so using extruded product builder or even solid model analyzer to extrude, you know, extrude a product and then create, or not extrude, extrude a product up and then create a part, or whether it be a countertop or even a plate for a die wall or something like that. That's where these types of tools, these lasers, come in handy.
Definitely. And that's what I was saying. I mean, I usually like to draw everything in 3D before I nest it. And with the solid model analyzer, you know, I would just take this, extrude parts, and then drop it right on to make sure that the counter or the cabinets underneath are fine and everything's good. Yeah.
That's great. And one of the other things I want to touch on too, I'll do my best maybe to answer one of these live. We have a lot of questions about the solid analyzer tools, and so you touched on it a little bit. For a long time now, I think when was it we first come out with that? I think in 2015, October, we first started working on this. But extruded product builder has been out for a while. A lot of people are loving it, using it, saving, you know, as much as 70% or more time in using that tool for die walls, nurses stations, things like that. But I think it deserves a little bit more explanation as far as what it is and where we're going and how the solid model analyzer fits in with that. And so what you have to understand is the analyzer is the tool, the engine that basically scans it all. It's going to look at all the features of whatever it's scanning, whether it be a hole or a route or whatever it is, the exterior dimensions of the part. And so it's going to analyze all of that so that it can convert it into something that is a Microvellum product. So we're working with a solid model first, and then we translate that into what is going to become something that we can put out in a nest. And so from something that you're seeing right here with this laser system, this is going to create that geometry. It's going to create a part that's a countertop, that's whatever it is, where we can then analyze it and just simply convert that into something that's we can then nest out for manufacturing. And so then we have the extruded product builder. That's if you open up that tab again, we have the extruded product builder that allows you to simply expedite the process of creating that solid model. And so when this first came out, it was actually the internal name was die wall builder, and we soon realized that the power of what we were creating stretched far beyond what is a die wall. I mean, what you're seeing on the screen is a die wall, but one of the first products that was made was actually banquette seating. And so we can do, with this extruded type tools, we can do wainscoting, we can do die walls, nurses stations, there's a banquette seating area, we can do column wraps, we can do desks, I mean, all sorts of things. And so it's really kind of, you know, use your imagination to see how far you can go. And then one of the nice things about this is that these, as one of the other questions that were coming in was asking about the differences between perhaps other software that's not AutoCAD based. And so one of the big differences is that what you're seeing here on Adam's screen, these sections, some of these actually came from architects, where we were simply able to use AutoCAD to do what we needed to do to make those layers recognizable to our tools, but there was no redrawing that was needed. And so now you're able to have something that is 100% accurate to what the architect spec'd out. So that works out really well. And so I don't want to go on too much longer about this, but you have to understand the tools that we have in our solid model building tools are expanding. So that's why we released last, was it April? We released a sneak peek at what's up and coming with our unique product builder, and that's a tool that allows you to build custom cabinets and build carcasses and inserts and create closets and all kinds of other things that perhaps aren't extruded, but more, you know, building part by part and then automating that whole process. Yeah, and so now we've merged that together into what we're calling our custom tools. And one of the reasons why we did this is to kind of lay the foundation for where we're going. And so this technology is expanding, it's growing, tools for being able to do auto face frames and doors and other things are coming soon to this technology. And so this merging of these two things, these palettes, basically provided us a more streamlined way of launching this. And so anyways, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I didn't mean to hijack your presentation here, but that's I just thought that might deserve a little bit more explanation as far as what that is.
No, that's great. That's great. That's
Yeah.
I love the feedback. I want to say too, one of the things that I noticed, when I was at the TechCon event and when I was at, all the Microvellum things that I've seen, and even with these live events, the heart behind everyone at Microvellum is, just to really make our lives easier. And that's something that I really appreciate about them and something that I found beneficial. It kind of comes with the package of the software, and that's something that I like. Yeah, I think this is great.
All right, well, good. Let me see if we had any other questions here. Yeah, thanks, Lenny. There, he's helping out, answering a lot of library questions. A lot of good information there presented early on in the webinar. So that's great. So yeah, there's another question from Scott. He asks, is the solid analyzer separate or included in version 15? So just a quick answer on that. The solid analyzer tool is included at no additional cost in our enterprise level. So we have a couple different tiers that you can get our software in. And so that one, if you have the enterprise level software, at no cost you have those tools. Actually, solid analyzer is actually going to be moved to our premium tier. So those of you who are in a premium tier, get ready for that, because that tool is coming for free to you at no additional cost if you're in that premium tier. But in the enterprise level, that's where you're going to gain access to more of the custom tools, or what we had once previously called it a unique product builder. And so that is coming soon with this latest 15.5 release. So hope that answers your question there.
One thing that I did want to touch on too for all the 6.7 users, something I'm just thinking about now with the questions, is one of the benefits of upgrading is, I think with 6.7 it was cut off at 2000, AutoCAD 2010. So now with the 15, this is Toolbox 18, so this is AutoCAD 2018. You get all the benefits of AutoCAD and all the upgrades that they've made, as well as the Microvellum. So it's just one of those things. I always like to have the most updated version of AutoCAD, because they were always coming out with new features with that, and if you're stuck on 6.7, you're kind of limited. So
right, that is a good point. Okay, well, so I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we can get into. We've kind of exceeded the time that we've allotted for this, and so for those of you that stayed on, we definitely appreciate your participation here. And if you do have other questions, please go ahead and keep asking those. We'll stay on a little bit longer here after we're done with this main presentation piece. But I think that'll do it, Adam. I think you did a great job helping us understand what motivated you to move forward, and I think you covered a lot of great information in a short amount of time.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Clay, and I hope this is very helpful for people.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. So if you're a customer and you're considering an upgrade or may want to learn more, please let us know, and we'd be happy to establish a strategy that works for you in working through that upgrade process. As Matt mentioned, it's really not as complicated as some may believe it to be. So we definitely want to talk with you, learn more about your goals, and help you with that upgrade if you're interested in that. And as Adam mentioned, the heart of what we have in our latest release is that of version 6.7, one of the most widely used versions that we've ever had. And so, but with the advancements, the innovations in the past decade or so, we've made things a lot easier, a lot faster, and molded actually a lot of what you're seeing in this release from the input from users like Adam and Matt. So we definitely appreciate that. One important note to take down if you're taking notes, version 15.5 has been out for public beta for a few weeks now, and we are actively testing it, and the release candidate for that official release that's scheduled for the end of September is actively being worked on and tested. So if you'd like to download the beta, you can visit our help center to get access to it, or if you don't have an active support subscription and want to learn what's inside and maybe give it a test drive yourself, let us know, and we'll be happy to work something out for you as far as that goes. If you want to learn more about the Leica 3D disto laser that was kind of talked about here briefly, would like more information on maybe outsourcing some drafting services, be sure to contact Adam and let us know in that exit survey. But Adam, if they want to learn more, maybe go to a website for either of those, the drafting services or the disto. Where do they go? What's the best place to get a hold of you?
If you go to dirigdesign.com, www.dirigdesign.com, or advanceddimensions.com, they can find out more information about it.
All right, well, great. Thanks for that. So before we end today's event, I'd like to also highlight another event we have coming up in December. We have on September 20th and 21st, we will be in Dallas, Texas for a regional training event hosted at Felder's South Division facility there. This event's going to cater to those who are just getting started with Microvellum, as well as those who are looking for a little advanced training. We're going to have some CNC demonstrations there with Felder, 2 full days of training led by some of our top techs down there. So if you want more information about that, definitely check out our website where you can learn more information. And actually next week we are going to be having another live event, and we are going to once again call on Lucas Marquez. He's going to be helping us out with a report designer class that's focused on conditional formatting. So if you are looking to learn more about report designer, definitely tune into that one and get registered for that one as well. So I think that'll about do it for today. We went a little over and appreciate those who stayed on. So hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on our next Microvellum live event.